Considering home security? Consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. The yard sign isn't just a sign, it's a line in the sand. It's no wonder 5 times more people choose ADT to protect their homes. Visit ADT.com to learn more. For license information and terms and conditions, visit ADT.com.
Hey, baseball fans, I'm Buster Olney. And on the latest Baseball Tonight offseason podcast, Major League Baseball is talking about a radical change to its strike zone. The Pirates are moving Andrew McCutchen to right field. We talk to Jason Stark, Doug Glanville, and Chelsea James of the Washington Post.
This is Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
How about Russell Westbrook, Mike? If it was Wednesday, it means he had a triple-double.
James Harden also had a triple-double, and Eric Bledsoe, he had a triple-double.
The Celtics, Isaiah Thomas, he's now done something that Larry Bird, Paul Pierce, Bill Russell, Bob Cousy never did. The New York Knicks are worth $3.3 billion.
That's why these owners, they think twice about spending a ton of money if they don't have to spend a ton of money.
I think they prefer Love. I think even LeBron prefers Love, even if he's best friends with Melo.
Now, here's Mike and Mike.
Here we are, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. The president of the NFL Players Association is Eric Winston. Ran into him, Mike, in Houston at the Super Bowl week, and we got to talking a little bit about this thing that's going on in Illinois that could wind up having a significant impact on the Bears. And so he's going to join us, Eric is, on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line in a couple of minutes, because you may recall DeMaurice Smith, who is the executive director of the Players Association, came on and said that if this thing goes through the way it is trending, that he, D. Smith, and the union are going to advise free agents not to go to the Bears. And that, of course, would be a pretty significant happening if it was heeded. Now, Mike, you might say, well, if they offer more money than other teams, players will go there, and that probably will be true.
Yes.
But much in the way that we look at what's going on with the Knicks and Jim Dolan, yes, if the Knicks offers someone more money than anyone else can offer them, that player will probably take it. Mm-hmm. But we live in a world now where most of the time the money can be equal in a couple of different places. So if D. Smith does put that out there, if that is sort of the position of the union, I would think that might break some ties for potential free agents.
I'm not sure. This is a complicated subject.
Correct.
In as much as layman terms as I can explain it, and Eric Winston will explain it. I'm sure he's well more versed in it than I am. Basically, this is about workman's comp. And, supposedly all the teams in Chicago
in the state of Illinois.
In the state of Illinois, are talking about this because average NFL 3.5 years, 4.8 years NBA, 5.6 years baseball, 5.5 NHL. Basically, in Illinois, workman's comp, you can get paid till you're 67 years old. They talk about through your life, and that's what they deem 67 years old as. For professional athletes who they say those careers last for only this long, basically this bill is saying, listen, you're basically, if you play that long, you're done with your professional career before you're 30 years old. It's too expensive to pay all of you until you're 67. So they're talking about doing it at, I believe, 37 years old. And the counter to that is, from the player side, is basically, hey, we're entertaining fans out there, and in our sport doing that, we may get hurt, that we're hurt for life, or for the rest of our lives, so we should get paid up to that point. But it gets even more complicated from that. There are states, Florida, Texas, Missouri, who don't have workman's comp for the pro athletes at all. I mean, so This went on in New Orleans, and my son was there, and they even went, to court there. So this gets pretty complex. So we'll let Eric Winston explain this in his best layman's terms that he can.
Let's do exactly that. Eric is on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Choose Shell V-Powered Nitro Plus Premium Gas for the best total engine protection you can get. Eric, thanks very much for doing this. It's a pleasure to talk with you. And would you explain, as best you can, to the audience who has not been following the story at all, what it is about this that the players have a concern about?
Yeah, well, thanks. First of all, thanks for having me on, and Mike was explaining it pretty well as well. So, first of all, I want to just kind of back away, and I don't know what exactly was said before I came on, but I just want to make sure we lay out exactly what's going on. Obviously, workers' comp is something that isn't well known for a lot of people, and they don't quite understand it. Obviously, a lot of people out there that have gotten hurt at work, whether they're athletes or not, understand it, but it's not something that is well known. So workers' comp is an earned benefit for us if you get hurt playing in the NFL, and it's something that helps medical and helps alleviate some of your lost wages at times. And like Mike said, it depends on from state to state, but that's the fact in Illinois. First of all, as players, we give each team a credit to pay for their workers' comp insurance. So they don't come out of pocket for it, which kind of makes this discussion about trying to take away workers' comp benefits even more maddening, I think, for players. No money comes from the state for this, from taxpayers to pay for our benefits, and therefore it doesn't hurt the state budget issue that's going on in Illinois. That's been used to say, oh, this is why we should change it. It's gonna help our budget. That's not the case. Specifically for this bill, my biggest problem is that it treats athletes different than other workers, and that's my biggest. We consider ourselves a union just like other unions. We are workers. We go to work, and while we have a great job and we play in the NFL and it's awesome, we still go to work every day, and so we should be treated as such when you think about that, especially when you think about the injuries that are sustained at work. And then we go into what wage differential is. I know Mike was talking about it a little bit as well. So wage differential helps bridge a little bit of the gap of the difference of an injury you sustain at work, and let's say you can't do that job anymore and you have to do a job that might not pay as well. Well, that wage differential makes up some of that gap. Not all of it, but it makes up a little bit of that gap, so you don't feel as much of a lost wages. So specifically, what this tries to do for just athletes now, not anybody else, just athletes. Which is the crazy thing about this is they think it's such a good idea that they just want to do it for athletes. They don't want to do it for the rest of the workers in Illinois. Is that it takes that wage differential, the years you can earn it, from 67 all the way down to 35 or 5 years after an injury. So give you a real quick example, and then we can get into a quick discussion. If a running back runs off the field and hits a trainer, and they both sustain career-ending injuries, the trainer unfortunately has an injury, the running back has a career-ending injury. The running back can only get wage differential and help out with some of the wage disparity until he's 35. That trainer, if he can no longer do his job or can't do the same job that he was doing, can get the same lost wages until he's 67. I think that for me always illustrates exactly why I think we're fighting this and why this bill is so frustrating, I think, for a lot of players, because it treats us so much differently than everybody else.
And obviously one of the big reasons, the bigger issues outside of all the sports is the state of Illinois and the budget that you talked about. So if it isn't coming out of their budget and affecting the state's budget, why is this bill up? Is this just because the teams and not wanting to put money into this? Is this what it comes down to?
Yeah, unfortunately, listen, it's a little bit of a complicated system. We pay a credit, so we basically give them a cap credit, an aggregate cap credit, not a salary cap credit. So it's a benefit, essentially. Workers' comp for us, we pay it as a benefit, as if it's our pension, as if it's anything else, right? So what they say is, so that benefit is, and that credit is finite. So it's a specific amount of money. Well, if you keep lowering the benefits you give, you keep receiving that same amount of money, and then you therefore can take more of that money and keep it to do other things, right? So you still get that credit no matter what. It's a finite credit to each team. So depending on what state you can, if you can limit the certain amount of benefits that you give out, well, then you keep more of the credit to do other things. I haven't heard. That's what I'm always working under the assumption of, and that's what everybody else ends up doing as well. So I think that kind of covers exactly why they're, I think, fighting this as well. And like you said, it limits their exposure.
Eric Winston is the president of the NFLPA. After D. Smith came on our show and many others talking about suggesting that he would steer free agents away from Chicago because of this, the Bears released a statement. Let me just read it. We join the 4 other major professional Chicago teams in monitoring and supporting changes to the system that protect athletes' rights under the workers' compensation system, while acknowledging athletes are not competing professionally until age 67. nothing in the wage differential language under consideration impacts the right for any athlete to receive just compensation for partial or permanent injury, medical benefits, or to file a claim itself. So to the layperson, that sounds like they're basically saying, Eric, there's nothing in this bill that actually affects a player's ability to get just compensation for the injuries that he suffers. Is that what is your response to that?
They get to define what just compensation is, I guess, all of a sudden, right? Listen, if I'm an NFL player, right, and I have let's say a finance degree, or I have a welding license that I plan on pursuing after I'm done playing. Basically, what they're saying in that statement is these players have no other expertise and have no chance of earning any money after they're done playing, which the guy next to you could probably make a pretty good argument that they're wrong, right?
Yeah.
So, and I hope to make that argument one of these days as well. And a lot of our other players I can use as test cases. So if all of a sudden I have a hip injury or a knee, I mean, whatever it might be, and I want to be a financial analyst, and I can't sit at a desk for 8 hours a day because I just can't sit down that long. So I can't do my job. Therefore, I can't get the job I could have gotten, and I have to take something else. Under the current laws, that's made up for to a certain degree. That welder that can't weld anymore, and he has to just do some remedial work, that wage differential is made up. So unfortunately, I feel like this is they're basically saying to ourselves, like, oh man, you guys can't do anything after you're done. And while we're talking about wage differential, I think that comes across to me as not right.
Okay, so now, Eric, let's get way down to the brass tacks here of the fans of the pro sports teams in Illinois and what they're thinking, because I'm sure they're listening to this and they're going, well, that doesn't affect me. Okay, that doesn't affect me. That doesn't affect me. And listen, I'm with you. You're fighting for the players, and that's what we're looking for. But DeMaurice Smith basically told free agents, don't go to Chicago. So from the Chicago Bear fan base, do you think that this will have an effect on the Chicago Bears pulling in free agents?
Well, listen, I'll answer that in two different ways, too, because, A, you said, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect you until they come for you, right?
Right.
So they're not saying this until, for athletes, but, what about, so the next people might be firefighters, or the next people might be police officers, or the next people, it's always a convenient excuse to say, oh, we're just going to do this one group. If it's good for one group, it should be good for everybody, first of all. Then B, listen, our job, and I've said this on the medical side, I've said it on the salary side, everything, is our job is to educate players to what their rights are and to what benefits that they receive. And workers' comp is one of those weird benefits that isn't universal across the league, right? Most benefits that we've bargained in the CBA are universal. Since workers' comp is a state issue, the benefits vary from state to state. So our job is to educate each player that needs to make a decision, and we educate the agents, and the agents understand, and we've educated the agents on this issue. So when you get into whether a guy's going to go there or not, that's his decision. But I can guarantee you that we're going to be educating those guys on what their rights are. So not even the free agents, but undrafted free agents. So if everything's equal, and you've got and let's face it, when you play in the NFL long enough, you have a 100% injury rate, right? You're going to get hurt at some point. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Whether it's a minor injury, hopefully, or a major injury, you're going to get hurt. So if you're an undrafted free agent and you can sign for X in Minnesota or X here, and Minnesota has much better workers' comp, and you can be taken care of. Well, where are you going to sign? Maybe that's not plain and simple for one guy, but it might be that simple for the other. And the same thing with free agents. So at the end of the day, we're going to educate our guys, and we're going to tell them what's best for them, and if they, or we're going to explain to them where what issue is best for them, and if that's important to them, then they're going to make their decision based on that. So that's all I can say for that. If a guy asks me exactly what's going on, I'm going to educate him. I'm going to tell him, and I'm going to give him his options.
Eric Winston, again, O-lineman in the league for many years on more than a few teams. And offensive linemen, they're normally the smartest ones on the field. Is there any any team you went to where the offensive system was more complicated than some of the stuff you deal with off the field?
Bruce Arians likes to throw a lot at you in Arizona, but no, I tell you what, it really stretches it's good for me. I enjoy it, and believe me, I had to do a little studying. When some of these issues come up, what's maddening, like I said before about the workers' comp is, and you guys mentioned it. We fought off a bill in Louisiana a couple years ago. We fought off a bill in Charlotte. And all these states have different ways of doing it. And so you have to learn it almost from state to state, and it gets messy.
And on a comparatively completely insignificant note, but it's coming into my inbox so much I have to bring it up. Do people tell you that you look like a very big Shooter McGavin?
I've gotten that one. I've gotten a couple other ones I don't want to mention because I don't want to give anybody any ideas because they're not that they're not that flattering. But yeah, I've gotten a few.
I think the picture that we have up on TV, he looks like if Shooter McGavin were just sort of blown up to what are you, Eric? About 300 pounds?
Yeah, 310.
310. So if Shooter McGavin weighed 310 pounds, he'd be Eric Winston. Yeah. It's pretty much that simple. Eric, thank you very much for doing this. And listen, your insight is valuable here, and I'm looking forward to hearing some response. And then I hope that we can continue these conversations as various issues come up over the course of time. Have a good off season.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
That's Eric Winston, who is, he does look like Shooter McGavin.
He does, and he is a smart dude, And listen, he said some things I disagreed with. They're going back and forth a little bit, but,
Which things?
Other.
Oh, not on this topic. I'm sorry. You mean over the course of time?
Over the course of time, which, is all healthy discussion. But, what these guys have to know and understand and then explain to players, and quite honestly, because there's about 2,000 players, a lot of them, in all honesty, don't care. Or don't want to, or just figured, you know what they figured? My rep knows, Eric knows, I'm going to trust them on what they say. And a lot of times Eric has to, dive down into the weeds with these guys a little bit and really do some explaining.
Well, this is also one that's because it only impacts one team.
Right.
So if I'm a player on the Minnesota Vikings, for example, I'm not overly concerned unless you want to stand together with the other players. Look, you might wind up being on the Bears
someday. Right.
And all that. It is a complex issue, and I just thought it's something we haven't really touched on our show at all. And when I saw Eric, and he was explaining it to me very passionately at this event that you and I were both at, I thought, you know what, let's get it on the air. Let's let him talk about it. Let's see what the fans think, and we'll continue the conversation.
Plus down to its basic, headline, that's why I asked Eric at the end, there's got to be Bears fans out there reading the headline going, whoa, wait, what's going on? Where the NFLPA, where DeMaurice Smith is saying, don't come to Chicago if you're a free agent. I mean, I think people want to, now that I don't know how much they want to dive into the weeds about it, but they want to know why.
Sure.
Why is the head of the union telling free agents not to go to the Bears?
And are they going to listen?
Yeah.
Is that all of a sudden going to impact their ability?
I don't think they will. I personally, don't think they will when money is involved, depending. I don't know where that will, everybody's different, of where that will fall on their determining factors.
Well, I'm just obviously, I don't know. But what I'll say is, if one team's offering you $10 million and the Bears are offering you $15 million, then you're going to go there. That's obvious. But if you're one of the rank and file and the money is pretty much the same everywhere and your union is saying, when in doubt, don't go to Chicago, to the point you just made, you might not look into it any further. You might, they're telling me not to go there. Atlanta's offering me the same money. I'll go there. So, I mean, I could see it the other way as well.
But here's the other thing, and I'll just continue on. If your rank and file means you're trying, we're not talking about the monster deals, we're talking about the rank and file,
right,
then you're trying to go somewhere where you have a chance to play. If you have a chance to play, you have a chance for your next contract to be bigger.
Right.
I guess my point is, I don't know where it falls on everybody's scale, of importance that says, Atlanta's offering me maybe the same amount as Chicago. Where can I play? Where's my better shot of getting into the lineup and playing so that maybe my next contract will be even bigger? There's other facets of this thing that I think players will look at before they come down to, man, if I get hurt in Chicago, I'm getting screwed.
No, you're probably right.
Yeah.
You're probably right. I guess my point is they might not even look that far.
Right.
They might just have in the back of their minds, union said this. Okay, there's one deciding factor. This isn't going to impact huge contracts. Because if you have $40 million guaranteed dollars in your contract, this isn't on your list of concern.
Exactly right.
This is for the overwhelming majority of players who are going to play 4 years.
Right. Exactly
They're going
right.
to walk out of the sport with by normal human standards, a lot of money, but not enough to live, the next 50 years of your life without having any concerns on it. I mean, sports is such a unique career, and this illustrates it better than anything. I can't imagine. I keep going back to what Jerry Seinfeld said on our show when you asked him if you could have been a baseball player instead of a comedian, would you do it? And he said no, because if you're a baseball player at 35, you're done.
Done.
And Jerry Seinfeld at the time said, I'm 60, and I think I'm better at my job now than I've ever been before.
Right.
So to me, that sort of sums this up. All I ever wanted to be was a broadcaster. Mm-hmm. Right. I can't imagine having only really had one career goal in mind, and then being 35 years old.
Being done.
It's done. Okay,
yep.
So ideally you're going to live another 50 years, and you got to go find something else to do.
Yeah.
But everything you've planned for, everything you prepared for, everything you've thought about, that's done now.
Yeah.
That's a tough. I'm not. Don't feel sorry for the guys who make millions, but that's no picnic.
And it's their fault a lot of times. But you see a lot of guys go broke because now they have time, they have some money, and they don't know where they're going or what they're doing, and it leads, unfortunately, some bad things.
And in many cases, they don't have the money because they never put any further plans into place. This is not about the guys who've lost $100 million.
Right.
Those cautionary tales like Antoine Walker and the story that he tells to young players. Anyway, I hope that people got something out of that. I just thought this is a story people have heard a little bit about, maybe not paid a lot of close attention to it.
I do. I think they saw the headline, free agents told not to go to the Bears. Okay, well, why? Let's jump into that a little bit, and there were the reasons.
All right, Mike and Mike, we are presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Much more to get to this morning, and right now, a word from Pennzoil. Mike, Pennzoil Synthetics with Pure Plus technology make this the time for performance. Winter is here, it's true. With cold start protection and excellent performance in extreme temperatures, Pennzoil Synthetics keep your engine purring no matter the weather.
Yep, this winter you've got bigger things to worry about than making sure your car can get to the game, so rest easy knowing that winter is here is not as ominous as it sounds. Visit Pennzoil.com. Make the switch today. Save $2 per quart on any qualifying Pennzoil purchase. See Pennzoil.com/rebate for more info. We're back after this on Mike and Mike.
We are Mike and Mike, and we are back and better than ever, presented by Progressive Insurance on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. There's a lot of stuff we haven't gotten to today, and I'm going to just sort of empty the chamber here, see if I can't get through a whole bunch of different subjects in a row. And one of them I know you've been wanting to get to all morning long is Jaromir Jagr.
How about Jaromir Jagr and what he's done at 45 years old? It's really been incredible. He got his, 1900th point. 19 at 40, and you look at the guy. Yeah, you love the gray in the beard. You love the hairstyle, and I love the thing they made up about all the different athletes of today that possibly would have his mullet, his hairstyle. But really incredible. His 1900 career point on his 45th birthday. He assisted on a goal. So really, really just amazing the career that he's had. In an age where we're talking about how far Tom Brady could go now. The Tom Brady thing, we're talking about playing at a high level. For Jagr, we're not, he's not one of the best in the league, at this point.
It is a much more physically demanding situation.
Without a doubt.
I'm not saying that Brady, how physically demanding? Okay, well, then maybe you're bringing up actually without necessarily meaning to a really good question. Because early this morning, for those of you who are not with us, this was in the first hour of the show this morning, Mark Schlereth basically said he doesn't see any reason Tom Brady is going to slow down because Brady's game is almost completely predicated on his mental understanding, on his sort of as he described it himself, as having the answers to the test. But there's obviously a physical component to this, his ability to throw the football, his ability to withstand some degree of punishment, right? I mean, who was it that said that the one thing that, Polian actually said to us with regard to Brady, that coming back from injury gets harder. So the reality is, even though he doesn't get hit as much as a lot of other quarterbacks, he still gets hit. And look, after the Super Bowl, he kept getting up every darn time, and he was fine at the end, but eventually that becomes a problem. How much of what he's doing, Mike, is actually physical, and how much does he lose as that deteriorates?
Well, listen, I mean, every time you're dropping back, every time you're moving some, you're using your legs. Every time you throw, you're using your arm, you're using your shoulder. I mean, that's all stuff that you have to keep in top-notch situation. Every time you get hit and every time you fall, what's twisting, what's getting hurt, what gets tweaked, because it takes longer to recover. It absolutely takes longer to recover as you get older. So while he's not at a position where every play, like a running back, he's getting, a big hit, like a lineman, every play is a collision. He certainly can take some hard hits, but he also, like 2 years ago, he took a ton. When that line went through 35, 38 different line combinations, he was getting knocked all over the place. You had real worry, not only for the team and how they were going to do, but for Tom and his career of getting hit. But his game is getting rid of the ball. His game is, if pressure is coming after him, he'll throw the ball away and live to fight another play. His game is not running and getting hit. His game is not taking a lot of hits. It doesn't mean he can't get hit hard. So from that aspect, I think he's in a really good position. The only thing separate, they were monster things, because you put Peyton Manning in the same thing, right? Guy who throws from the pocket, Peyton Manning will throw the ball away, live to fight another day. He's not taking off and running at all, but he had 4 neck surgeries, and boom, that's it. And I'm talking upper body as well. Now, even if Tom got a knee injury, it would take a while to recover, but and you do throw with your legs, just like pitchers, you throw with your legs and such. So if you couldn't throw as much with your legs, that's putting more strain on your shoulder. There are things that can add up. But for the most part, with his style of play, if they can keep him from taking a lot of hits, I don't know why he can't keep playing. I mean, I really don't. Now, at this incredible level, yeah, okay, he had a rough first half of the Super Bowl, but before that, was he in the MVP conversation?
Oh, yeah.
He, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan?
Yeah,
I mean, he had a monster year, played just 12 regular season games. I get it, missed the first 4. So then we're going all the way to the Super Bowl. Are we going to say, oh, boy, that first half, ooh, he's sliding? I mean, that's a tough call when he paid, that was one half of one game, the biggest game, where the other 95% of the year he played extremely well.
Well, in the end, he played 15 games and they won 14 of them.
Exactly.
So it's not that complicated.
So his style of game, I think definitely lends to, we know the measures he goes to stay in shape and healthy. I put it at 42. I give him 3 more years where he can be extremely effective quarterback in the NFL.
I guess the best comparison to it would be a pitcher who, as he gets older, loses his ability to throw as hard as he used to, but has now understood the strike zone,
right,
and understood how to set up hitters, and understood all the other psychological and mental components of the game, and becomes better. The point is that even those guys, it ends.
It does end.
It does. They're not pitching until they're 50.
It's going to end. There's nobody talking about Brady saying it's not going to end. We're just wondering if he pushes the level to a different one.
Okay, a couple of other things that we have today we didn't get to. This weekend is the NBA All-Star Game. It's in New Orleans, and so it's sort of Anthony Davis's show.
Right.
He is the local star, and more than I think used to be the case, the hometown superstar has become almost the de facto host of All-Star Weekend. I don't feel like it used to be that way. It certainly is now. So this is Anthony Davis's house. Everyone is coming to, and he is the show. And he said the right things when asked about this week.
Right, yeah.
When he said, I have no intention of ever leaving here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be in New Orleans. Because it doesn't do, he's got the huge contract, and it doesn't do him any good to say otherwise. But they've done a very poor job to this point of putting a really good team around him. Mm-hmm. They do a lot of losing despite how sensational he is. And a perfect example of that is his name isn't anywhere near the MVP conversation because the team's record is so bad. But just look at his numbers. Look at the numbers that Anthony Davis is putting up. No one's paying attention. No one's paying any attention to the numbers that Davis is putting up because they're talking about Harden and they're talking about Westbrook and they're talking about Kawhi Leonard. Anthony Davis is putting up numbers that are the equal of anyone, but his team stinks. So do you believe, would you take the over or the under on that? If I said to you 5 years from now, Anthony Davis will still be in New Orleans.
Be gone.
You think so?
Yeah.
I kind of do, too.
I think he's going to end up somewhere else because unless that team starts to build, they have the same record as the Knicks, 23-34 right now. He's 23 years old.
That's the point. He's got a lot of time.
3. there's no doubt in my mind I see him on another team.
Look at the numbers. I mean, they're up on our TV screen right now. He basically averages 28 points and 12 rebounds a game, 2.5 blocks. He does absolutely everything. He is as valuable, he is as outstanding as any player in the NBA. His name's never even mentioned. It's
Without
almost
a doubt.
People have almost forgotten he exists because his team is, I hate to say this because I love the city of New Orleans, but his team is so irrelevant that it's almost like he's been forgotten. Who's better than that guy? Who's better than Anthony? I mean, all things get taken absolutely everything into consideration. Who's a better player right now than Anthony Davis?
He's right there when you talk about top players. He's right there in the conversation. So, do I think he plays for 13 years and all 13 are in New Orleans? No, I do not.
No, and I think that when he got drafted there, that would have been your hope, right?
Yes.
Is that they surround him.
They surround him and they build.
The league is better, and I know they're doing things in a collective bargaining agreement to try and make sure that guys will stay where they are. But at the end of the day, anymore, this league has become about guys wanting to win. And he's going to get tired of the not winning. Now, maybe they'll turn it around. They've got some time. They signed him. They did the smart thing. They gave him as much money as they could, as fast as they could, to lock him up for as long as they could. But at the end of the day, if they don't figure out a way to put a winning team around him, I have to believe he's not going to be satisfied with that for the entirety of his career. There are only 4 players in history who have averaged for a season 27 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks. Shaq, Olajuwon, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Bob McAdoo, who no one ever talks about, but was a great player and an enormous compiler of statistics. And Davis would be the 5th guy ever to do that. See, and his name won't even be uttered in the MVP discussion.
And the worry on the other side of him is he gets nicked. He misses games. You know, that has happened.
He's never played more than 68 games in a season.
Yeah.
But that doesn't change the fact that he's great.
No.
Right?
It doesn't. It doesn't. And I don't think it changes the fact that as long as we don't start seeing more injuries add up, that somebody would want to trade for this guy and make him a nice piece of their pie to win a championship.
Oh, I think I would go higher than that. I would say that any team in the league would say, if we get that guy, we can build around him. He can be the central piece in a championship team. Now, we may be at a point where no one player is ever going to be that again, but I think he's that. I think LeBron, Kawhi, he's got that kind of ability. Now, we've never seen him go deep in the playoffs. They made the playoffs that one year. They got in the first round. Did they get swept, or did they wind up winning that 4th game and forcing a 5th? I can't remember now, but they got into the playoffs that one year as an 8th seed. They played a couple of tough games, but they didn't get any further. So we've never seen him. We saw him help carry a Kentucky team to a national championship in his 1 year of college. And Larry Brown came on our show and said, this guy's the next Bill Russell. And, I don't know. If you look at the overall ability, if anyone is, maybe he is. So I think every team in the league right now, with the possible exception of Golden State, trades their entire roster for Anthony Davis.
I would agree. So I'd imagine it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when for him.
Okay, next up, always one of our favorite events. Bizarre baseball injuries.
Oh, my God.
Right? Every year is when we start getting around to baseball spring training, you start getting the bizarre injuries. And did you see the one from Royals pitcher Brian Flynn?
I did.
He, as it is described here on USA Today's sports page, continued a long-standing tradition of baseball players getting hurt in weird ways as he was getting ready to leave for Royals camp in Surprise, Arizona. According to the Kansas City Star, Flynn injured himself, suffered a broken rib and 3 non-displaced fractures in his vertebrae. It's a terrible injury.
Bad injury. He
is expected to return in 8 weeks. He hurt himself falling through the roof of a barn.
Yep.
He's got a barn there in Oklahoma, and he said, quote, he was working on his, this is his manager, I should say, Ned Yost. He was working on his barn and fell through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that, I don't know, I've never been in a barn or on a barn.
Obviously, the barn needed some work if he fell through the roof.
That shouldn't happen, right? I mean,
you should generally not fall through the roof
of a barn.
No.
I mean, is this a problem? Is this like an epidemic?
I would say it was a problem for that particular barn that I don't know if it was while he was fixing said roof or he was on the roof for a different reason and then fell through the roof, which would mean it lacked some serious integrity, did the roof, if he were to fall through it. I don't know any more of the specifics of that. I know it's an injury you would never have in your life.
No.
Greenie falls off or through roof of anything.
Correct.
It's never going to happen.
I'm not getting on the roof of a car, much less the roof of a barn.
I've been on plenty of roofs. helmets in my day. I've never fallen through one or off one, thankfully.
It says here last season's first bizarre injury also came, when it came in March, when Brewers reliever Will Smith injured his knee taking off his shower shoes. Now, that's something that I could see happening to me.
That could happen to you.
That one is much more likely to happen to me.
That wouldn't shock me down the road reading an injury report on you for something like that.
We'll take a short break. Back in just a moment. It seems I may have gotten something terribly wrong. You will tell me coming up next right here, Mike and Mike.
Upside. Now say big on travel and get a big gift card every trip you buy. You'll love Upside.com. Upside.
Mike and Mike reminding you, if you miss anything on this program, including Eric Winston was with us here in hour number 4, Ryan Russillo was in hour number 3, or anything else, any of the other fun we've had today, good time to remind you can listen to any and all 4 hours of Mike and Mike on demand in the ESPN app. You can also subscribe to the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. It's all available in the Listen tab of the ESPN app. Now, I opened the show this morning by asking you if they made movies, biopics, as I said, about Malcolm Butler, whose story is fascinating,
right,
and about Tom Brady and the Deflategate saga, which would you be more inclined to see? By the way, we put a poll up on Twitter on that, and 72% said they would see the Butler movie. But that said, I have had a lot of people telling me today they think I'm mispronouncing that word. So when you, Mike, are reading a story and you see that word, B-I-O-P-I-C, how would you pronounce it?
I pronounce it biopic.
See, I did. That's the kind of word that I realize I'm not sure I've ever heard anyone say out loud.
Right.
I've seen it in print a million times. It is.
I thought I've heard people say that. I immediately thought biopic.
People are now telling me that I'm saying it wrong, that it's biopic, because it is a picture that is biographical.
Okay. I mean, I understand that, but I've never heard it pronounced like that in my life. Not that I hear that word a lot.
I don't think I've ever heard it used. Like, which one is it? Now it's bothering me because I've had enough people telling me that they think I'm getting it wrong.
I'm not bothered at all because I misspeak all the time.
So
it really doesn't matter to me. So I'm going with biopic.
I am too. I'm staying with biopic, and we will stand united against that. Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's how we're pronouncing the word.
Right.
That said, that sounds like a great story, and I will confess, I didn't really know the story of Malcolm Butler.
I did not.
You don't know where everyone comes from, and the Patriots have so many guys that you never heard of until all of a sudden they're great on the Patriots, that I never really bothered to look into the backstory of Malcolm Butler, who made the biggest play in the history of the Super Bowl, who it turns out less than a year before that was working the fryolator at Popeyes. Next thing you know, he gets a tryout with the Patriots. Next thing you know, he makes that play, and now he's considered one of the best players in the league at his position.
Yeah, I mean, listen, these kind of stories, look at Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner playing in the Arena League. I'm covering him with Mike Adamle in the 90s.
Yeah. And
this guy's bagging groceries at a grocery store, and then plays in the Arena League when it's getting going, and then, becomes, Hall of Famer. And then you hear Mark Schlereth talk about Terrell Davis. They're at a preseason game where in Tokyo, did he say?
He said in Japan, yeah.
In Japan, they're at a preseason game, and he said Terrell Davis, who's a rookie, is going to check out and leave. He's 6th on the depth chart and is going to leave, just going to leave the team thinking, I have no shot to make this team. I'm done. I'm going to leave. Luckily, he doesn't. He has one monster special teams play where he just puts a big hit on somebody that everybody hears and everybody jumps up and looks at, and the next thing you know, he's playing ball. I remember there was a guy that was going to be a rookie in the league, and I can't remember who it was, but he turned out being a decently high draft pick. And he asked me, we were talking before the draft, and actually he was more like a mid-level draft pick. And he asked me, what are some tips of like starting this out and trying to make a team? And this is back in training camp when you actually practice twice a day and hit twice a day and could make plays in camp. I said, for a guy like you who's going to be a mid-level to lower pick, he knew that's where he was going to go. I said, you need to, at night, at meetings, make them stop and rewind the camera. That's how you get noticed.
What do you mean rewind the camera?
He was a DB. You need to make a play where at night when they're showing practice to everybody in the meeting that they rewind it because of something you did. And you have the chances of 2 practices. You have a chance to make a standout. Obviously, that goes for a preseason game. You try and make that play. But you have 4 preseason games where you play very little, a little more, then a little more. Practice, back then, again, you got a decent amount of reps. I said, you have to make them rewind the tape because you're not going to be the guy that gets all the chances. So when you get your chances, make them rewind and say, hey, nice job, or look at that. I said, that's how you start to get noticed, and then maybe get in more reps or a few more reps and continue to do that. And it's always at that moment, that TD moment of the big hit on the play or whatever moment it was, for Kurt Warner, whatever moment it was for Malcolm Butler. We know what that moment was, but he had to do more than that to get to that position to make the play in the Super Bowl. He had to make plays from after working at a Popeyes to do something to catch the eye of Bill Belichick to say, this guy is going to play for me.
Am I getting this wrong? Didn't your father also tell you walk in the first day and pick a fight with the biggest guy there?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Which is pretty good, too. I mean, that'll get you noticed.
That was how, the days went back then. He said, find the biggest, toughest guy on the other side of the ball and get in a fight with him.
Because that will make people notice.
Because that will, it'll show the coach you're tough, you're not going to back down. I'm not saying there isn't some flaws to that, but I understood his point. The point was still get noticed. Show a coach you're not going to back down. Show a coach that you're willing to do what you have to do out there.
On Twitter, Reggie Williams tweets at us as 2 guys that are solo acts without much help. Perhaps Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook need to combine forces. Well, I'm sure if you were reading through the notes over the weekend, all this gossip out there, rumors, and that's all it can be at this point, about the possibility that those 2 guys, Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook, who have the same agent, possibly uniting in Los Angeles. It'll be a while. Westbrook can opt out of his deal in 2018. Davis can't opt out until 2020. But Davis will still be, to your point earlier, plenty young enough to be a dominant player then. So we'll see. The Lakers, they got Magic in there now. They have some time to try and build around these young players, let them develop, see if one of them turns out to be a great player, Russell or Ingram or one of these guys. And whether they do or they don't, I guess, you still will want to supplement that with at least one great free agent.
Yeah, you will. That is something to keep your eye on, obviously, down the road. But that would be intriguing.
All right, an interesting day. Thank you all so much for spending your day with us. We're heading headlong into the All-Star weekend where there's always a lot of fun to be had. We'll preview that tomorrow, Mike, as we'll look ahead to that. And the NBA trade deadline, we'll have Jay Billis tomorrow. We'll have Jalen Rose and a whole lot more. We hope you will come along for the ride. See you back in Better Than Ever tomorrow. Mike and Mike.
When you come to Applebee's for an all-in burger with fries and a bottomless Pepsi for just $9.99, you also get a shot at great instant win prizes. Sink your teeth into that. No purchase necessary. Open to legal 50 U.S. 18+. See rules at allintowinsweeps.com.
Hi, this is Maury Moreland Morrison, here to tell you Geico has more than just great savings. Much more. Geico's been around for more than 75 years, back when they were using Morse code. Sorry, that's just my sense of humor. What's more, with Geico you get 24/7 access to licensed agents on the app, online, or over the phone, so you can talk to them at night or in the morning. So forevermore, just know that no other auto insurer has more than Geico. More power to you. Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
When you come to Applebee's for an all-in burger with fries and a bottomless Pepsi for just $9.99, you also get a shot at great instant win prizes. Sink your teeth into that. No purchase necessary. Open to legal 50 U.S. 18+. See rules at allintowinsweeps.com.
The NBA All-Star Game this Sunday.
Here's Curry behind the back. Half-court heave on its way. And he hits it!
Coverage begins Sunday at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.